You won't believe how close we were to never have Angry Birds in our lives. This is the rise of Angry Birds. The world was once captivated by a flock of feathered friends, soaring high and taking down green pigs with reckless abandon. But as time passed, their fame began to fade and their empire crumbled, leaving fans wondering, what happened to cause the rise and fall of Angry Birds? I genuinely doubt that anyone on Earth hasn't heard of one of the most popular games, Angry Birds. At first glance, it seems like a pretty ridiculous concept, launching Angry Birds from a slingshot at some green pigs who are hiding in flimsy structures. But here's the kicker. It's absolutely addicting. Over 50 million people have downloaded it and spent over 1.2 billion hours a year playing it. That's more than the entire lifespan of Wikipedia. So, what is it about this simple game that's got everyone hooked? I did some digging and it turns out there's a lot of cognitive science behind it. Creating an engaging software experience is no easy feat, especially in a game that seems so straightforward. But the makers of Angry Birds have somehow hit the nail on the head. In this documentary, we're going to explore the fascinating rise and fall of one of the most popular mobile games of all time, Angry Birds. From its humble beginnings as a simple game designed for mobile phones to becoming a global phenomenon with millions of downloads and a massive following, Angry Birds took the world by storm. But just as quickly as it rose to fame, it began to fall from grace, leaving fans wondering what went wrong. Today, we'll take a closer look at the success story behind Angry Birds, the factors that contributed to its downfall, and what we can learn from its meteoric rise and subsequent fall. So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover the intriguing story of the rise and fall of Angry Birds. You won't believe how close we were to never have Angry Birds in our lives. In 2003, three friends from the Helsinki University of Technology developed the game, King of the Cabbage World, and won a mobile game development competition. This vision led to the creation of their company, Relude, which later became Rovio Mobile. For the next few years, they struggled to create a hit game and were on the brink of bankruptcy in 2007, having to fire most of their staff. But then, Apple released the iPhone and everything changed. The founders of Rovio saw this as a chance to create something special that could capture the hearts and minds of smartphone users. And that's when they came up with Angry Birds. But even with their game complete, they couldn't sell it. It wasn't until 2011, 4 years after the company's near collapse, that Apple decided to feature the game on its App Store, and the rest, as they say, is history. Angry Birds became an instant hit, catapulting Rovio to success and earning them millions of fans worldwide. But get this, it wasn't until their 52nd attempt at creating a hit game that they finally struck gold. From near bankruptcy to global success, the story of Rovio and the rise of Angry Birds is one of the ages. The meteoric rise of Angry Birds is nothing short of astounding. In just 6 months, the game rose to the top of the Apple App Store, and by 2014, it had been downloaded over 2 billion times. Rovio Entertainment quickly capitalized on the success of Angry Birds by releasing a series of equally popular games. At its peak in 2017, Rovio brought in a staggering $201 million in gross revenue. The characters from Angry Birds even made appearances in various TV shows around the world. With a team of 480 talented individuals, Rovio continued to innovate and produce quality games. However, the company's revenue has declined recently, and its 2020 gross earnings were only $50.4 million, which is obviously upsetting, and so everyone wants to know what just happened. And why did Angry Bird end after such a tremendous hit? What started as a simple and addictive game quickly turned into a massive global phenomenon, with merchandise, spin-offs, and even an animated movie. But with great success came great greed, and Rovio, the company behind Angry Birds, began to make some dark truth decisions that would ultimately lead to the downfall of the franchise. At the height of its popularity, Angry Birds was a cultural phenomenon, with fans all over the world eagerly waiting for the next installment of the game. But in their pursuit of profits, Rovio made the fatal mistake of relying too heavily on the Angry Birds brand. Instead of innovating and exploring new gameplay mechanics, they churned out endless sequels and spin-offs that failed to capture the magic of the original game. As a result, players began to tire of the same old characters and gameplay, leading to a decline in sales and interest. Yet that was only the very beginning. Rovio's dark truth was that they failed to properly adapt to the changes in the mobile gaming market. As free-to-play games began to dominate the app stores, players started to expect a certain level of accessibility and ease of use. However, Rovio continued to release paid games with complex mechanics, turning off a lot of potential players. As a result, other game developers started to create games that offered similar gameplay experiences to Angry Birds, but with more innovation and excitement. And let's not forget about the competition. While Rovio was resting on their laurels, other game developers were taking notes and creating games that rivaled the success of Angry Birds. Games like Candy Crush and Clash of Clans started to dominate the app stores, leaving Angry Birds in the dust. With its declining sales and lack of innovation, it was only a matter of time before Angry Birds became a distant memory in the world of mobile gaming. Today, if you search for Angry Birds on the App Store or Google Play Store, you will find yourself inundated with a bewildering array of games. Some of them barely resemble the original game at all, with multiplayer modes, RPG elements, and other features that are a far cry from the simple pleasure of flinging birds at pigs. The franchise seems to have been milked for all it's worth, with new games, toys, and merchandise released at a breakneck pace. And yet, for all the missteps and misfires, there is still hope for fans of the classic Angry Birds experience. In Angry Birds 2, you can still enjoy the core gameplay that made the series so addictive in the first place. The charming visuals, catchy soundtrack, and satisfying gameplay mechanics all remain, proving that there is still a place for classic Angry Birds in the world of mobile gaming. Ultimately, the rise and fall of Angry Birds is a cautionary tale for businesses on how to value customers over profits. Rovio's success with Angry Birds was unparalleled, and they were able to achieve massive profits by prioritizing their users' enjoyment and satisfaction. However, as their success grew, so did their focus on maximizing profits, which ultimately led to the dilution of the brand and an erosion of customer loyalty and their ultimate downfall. Rovio's early success with Angry Birds was largely driven by a passionate user base that felt a connection to the game and its characters. However, as Rovio became more focused on profits, they began to lose sight of what made Angry Birds so popular in the first place. They put out a ton of spin-offs and paraphernalia, which weakened the brand and the bond between players and the game. This led to a backlash from users who felt that Rovio was only interested in their money and not their satisfaction, especially after they removed all the original games their fans grew to love. Rovio's reputation was damaged, and they experienced a decline in sales and revenue as a result. In contrast, companies that prioritize customer satisfaction and experience, such as Apple and Google, have been able to maintain strong customer loyalty and profits. So what can we learn? Rovio's experience with Angry Birds is a cautionary tale for businesses on the importance of valuing customers over profits. By prioritizing customer satisfaction and experience, companies can build a passionate and loyal user base that will drive long-term success. Failure to do so can result in a dilution of the brand and an erosion of customer loyalty, leading to a decline in sales and profits.